Okay, so picture this. You're watching a cooking competition, but live, anything could happen.
Oh.
And the contestants are the Try Guys.
Oh, wow.
And they're making churros
Okay.
without a recipe.
Now, that is a recipe for disaster.
That's exactly what makes this YouTube video so fascinating, right?
Yeah.
You got Queasy, Eugene, Zach, and Keith.
I love those guys.
I know everybody knows them for their crazy antics, but this challenge, it really puts their skills to the test.
So no safety net.
No safety net.
Wow.
With a panel of expert judges.
Ooh.
And a live audience vote.
And a live audience.
The pressure is on.
That adds a whole other dimension to it, right?
Totally.
It's not just about impressing a few judges.
Right.
You got to win over a whole crowd.
Absolutely.
So you got to bring the wow factor.
Oh, yeah. And there's definitely some wow moments.
I bet.
But before we get to the taste testing,
Okay.
let's talk about the churro concepts themselves.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay. Queasy.
Yeah.
He went for a tropical vibe.
Ooh, tropical.
With a guava mango chow.
Okay.
And a palm tree presentation.
Ambitious.
Right.
Very ambitious.
I mean, that's pretty out there for someone
yeah.
trying to make churros from scratch for the first time. Then there's Eugene.
Okay.
Always the wild card.
Oh, yeah.
He made seafood churros.
Seafood churro.
With cod, squid, and crab.
Wow.
And he dyed the dough blue.
Blue churros.
I don't even know what to say to that.
I'm not sure if I'm intrigued or terrified.
Blue food is not exactly known for its,
Appetizing appearance?
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't know how the judges are going to react to that.
I'm really curious to hear about that.
Oh, you will?
Okay.
Speaking of Wild Zach,
Uh-huh.
never one to back down from a challenge.
No.
He went for Samoa-inspired churros
Okay.
with chocolate and caramel.
All right.
And Keith, always the dependable one,
Mm-hmm.
he aimed for fried chicken churros with maple syrup.
Fried chicken churros.
Shaped like a waffle.
That's a twist. So we got a clash of the culinary titans here.
Absolutely.
Each of them bringing their own unique perspective.
I love it.
But before we get to their finished creations,
Okay.
let's rewind to the moment they first got the instructions.
Okay.
Cook the dough.
Cook the dough.
That's it.
That's all they got.
That's all they got. That's so vague.
You can see the confusion setting in immediately.
Yeah.
They're all scrambling,
Right.
trying to figure out what cook the dough even means in the context of making churros.
In the context of churros.
Yeah.
Zach thinks lard is involved.
Okay.
Queese is just trying to keep up.
Bless his heart.
Bless his heart.
Yeah.
He starts making pancake batter.
Pancake batter.
Because that's the closest thing he could think of.
That is hilarious.
It is hilarious.
But, it highlights the importance of clear instructions.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially in baking.
Right.
Precision is key.
Absolutely.
You stray from the recipe,
Mhm.
you could end up with a culinary disaster.
And down the rabbit hole they go.
Oh, boy.
Zach, he's using a churro maker,
Okay.
which Queasy hilariously dubs a pooping machine
A pooping machine.
and a penis maker.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, the visuals in this video are something else.
I can only imagine.
You've got Zach spouting his signature catchphrases.
Like,
Coconut oil is good for cooking,
of course.
which he swears is a quote from a previous video.
It probably is.
It's pure chaos. But you know what? Amidst all the laughter,
Yeah.
you can see they're genuinely trying to figure it out.
I love that about them.
Mm.
They're not afraid to try new things.
Right.
To make mistakes.
Yeah.
And to just have fun with it.
Absolutely.
It's a good reminder that
Yeah.
cooking doesn't have to be perfect.
Right.
It can be messy.
Yeah.
It can be unpredictable.
Mhm.
And ultimately, a lot of fun.
And eventually, the time for experimentation had to end.
Right.
The moment of truth arrived.
Judgment Day.
The judging.
Dun, dun, dun.
So these guys, they were being judged on taste?
A creativity,
Uh-huh.
presentation, and whether their creations
Yes.
could even be considered churros.
That's a tall order.
It is a tall order.
Especially given,
Yeah.
no recipe.
No recipe.
So I wonder what the judges considered to be the most important criteria. Was it the taste,
Yeah.
the texture, the appearance,
Right.
or maybe something more intangible?
Yeah.
Like the overall experience?
It's a good question.
It is.
Let's start with Quasi
Okay.
and his tropical churros.
All right.
He really leaned into the presentation.
Oh, yeah.
He even instructed the judges to close their eyes
Really?
and imagine themselves in Trinidad and Tobago.
Wow.
He managed to construct a pretty impressive palm tree.
Our palm tree out of churros.
Out of churros.
I'm impressed.
All things considered.
Yeah.
The judges, they praised his tropical flavors
Okay.
and the spice from the guava mango chow.
All right.
but they weren't as impressed with the texture. What was wrong with the texture?
They described it as more bread-like
More bread-like.
than a traditional churro.
So not that crispy outside.
They're crispy enough.
And that soft inside
Right.
that you expect from a churro.
And they also said it wasn't sweet enough,
Ah.
which is a key element
Yeah.
of the classic churro.
So it seems like Quisi's instincts for flavor were
Yeah.
spot on,
Mm-hmm.
but the lack of a recipe
Yeah.
might have led him astray
Yeah.
when it came to the texture.
You think so?
Churros, they have that delicate balance of crispy and soft.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard to achieve
Yeah.
without the right proportions of
Right.
ingredients.
And precise cooking techniques.
Exactly.
Yeah, perfect example of how baking
Mhm.
can really be a science.
It is a science.
But despite the criticism,
Yeah.
Quisi seemed genuinely proud of his creation.
Oh.
He even exclaimed,
What did he say?
"Those taste so good. Oh my God.
Oh.
Can't believe it tastes so good."
I love that enthusiasm.
It's a reminder that sometimes
Yeah.
the most important judge is yourself.
Absolutely.
If you're happy with the outcome, that's a victory in itself.
And then we have Eugene,
I agree.
who, as you might expect, marched to the beat of his own drum.
Of course, of course.
He presented his blue seafood churros
The blue ones.
with a very nonchalant,
What'd he say?
"Judges take 5, you don't matter today."
That's
So,
why-
audience, you get to decide.
I-
They don't matter.
Only Eugene could pull that off.
Only Eugene.
I mean, he just has this way of,
Yeah.
subverting expectations,
Yeah.
creating his own rules.
Mhm.
It's refreshing,
It is.
even if it's a little unpredictable.
A little bit.
Just a tad.
But before the judges could even take a bite,
Okay.
one of them, Johnny,
Mm-hmm.
he pipes up with a very important question.
Oh, what's that?
He wanted to know why he got stuck with logs
Logs.
while everyone else got fun shapes.
Yeah.
And Eugene's response,
What do you say? I gave my starfish to the beauty shot.
the beauty shot.
Always thinking about the aesthetics.
Gotta get that perfect shot.
Right.
But it raises an interesting question, though.
What's that?
How much does presentation really influence our
Mhm.
perception of food?
I think it plays a big role.
I think so, too.
But back to Eugene's blue creations.
Mhm.
Surprisingly,
Yeah.
they were a hit with the judges.
Really?
Rudy, the professional chef, even declared them excellent.
Excellent.
They loved the crispy exterior,
Okay.
the soft interior,
Mm-hmm.
and the unexpected flavor combinations.
Flavor combos must have been really something.
They were.
To win over a churro expert like that?
Hmm.
Impressive.
They even dubbed it a modern churro,
A modern churro?
suggesting that maybe, just maybe,
Yeah.
Eugene's onto something here.
He might be onto something.
He really pushed the boundaries
He did.
and challenged the culinary norms.
And the judges were open to it.
They were.
That's great.
But let's move on to Zach,
Okay.
who unfortunately
Oh,
faced some serious setbacks.
I remember this.
Remember those perfectly formed churros he was
Mhm.
making?
Mhm.
With the,
With the books.
let's just say the churros
Yeah.
met a tragic end in the fryer.
I tried again.
They burnt to a crisp,
Oh, no.
leaving Zach with a bowl of what could only be described as
Burnt churro crumbs.
burnt churro crumbs.
That's rough.
Or, as Quissy so eloquently put it,
What did he call them?
Dino poop.
Dano poop.
Zach later admitted
Yeah.
to using a 1-to-1-to-1 ratio
1-to-1-to-1.
of sugar,
Okay.
flour,
Yeah.
and Crisco.
Oh, no.
A recipe for disaster, to be sure.
Way too much sugar.
The judges were, let's say, less than impressed.
I bet.
One even asked,
What did they say?
is this just a ton of sugar?
Oh, my gosh.
It feels really crumbly, like a sugar crumble.
Well, yeah, with that much sugar, it's going to be crumbly.
And when you factor in the frying process,
Yeah.
it's a recipe for burning. It really is.
But even amidst the burnt sugar
Yeah.
and the disappointment,
Zach managed to squeeze in a few of his signature quips.
He always does.
When one of the judges questioned his use of coconut oil,
Uh-huh.
he insisted coconut oil is good for cooking,
Of course.
claiming it was a quote from a previous video.
It must be.
It must be.
He loves that line.
It's that ability to find humor
Yeah.
in any situation
Yeah.
that makes Zach such an endearing character.
Absolutely.
He really does.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, not all the judges were completely turned off
Really?
by Zach's burnt offerings.
Okay.
Johnny always the adventurous eater.
Oh, Johnny.
He declared them the best damn pubes I've ever eaten.
The best damn pews.
He even praised the Samoa-inspired flavors.
Oh, wow. So the flavors were there.
They were there.
But the execution.
Not so much.
Not so much.
Hey, at least he provided some memorable moments.
He did. He did. Always entertaining.
Always entertaining.
And now for the moment. We've all been waiting for
Yeah.
Keith's fried chicken churros.
Fried chicken churros, finally.
Remember, he went all in on the chicken and waffles concept.
Oh, dude.
With pulverized chicken in the dough,
Okay.
a dusting of sugar mixed with Nashville hot spice,
Interesting.
and a drizzle of maple syrup.
Wow.
He even shaped them in circles
In circles.
to mimic waffles.
That's attention to detail.
Right.
He really thought this through.
He did.
Even without a recipe.
And the judges were impressed.
They were.
They said his churros had that classic crispy exterior
Okay.
and soft interior.
Mm-hmm.
They loved the blend of sweet and savory flavor.
Sweet and savory.
And even Johnny, our resident chaos champion,
Yeah.
he had to admit that Keith's churros
What'd he say?
were unnecessarily hard to criticize.
Unnecessarily hard to criticize.
High praise from Johnny.
That is high praise.
Keith managed to create a churro that was both innovative
Yeah.
and delicious,
I love it.
satisfying even the most discerning palate.
He did it.
He did it.
It's a reminder that sometimes a little bit of planning
Mm-hmm.
and a solid understanding of basic culinary principles
Yeah,
can go a long way,
absolutely.
even when you're winging it.
Even when you're winging it.
Yeah.
And just when we thought the
Yeah.
culinary roller coaster had come to an end, it was time for the audience vote,
The audience vote.
which, as you know,
Yeah.
is a whole other beast.
A whole other beast.
They hadn't tasted the churros.
Right.
They were voting purely on the entertainment value,
Purely on entertainment.
the sheer spectacle of it all.
The audience vote is a wild card.
It is.
You never know which way they're going to go.
It's a fascinating glimpse
Mm-hmm.
into the psychology of crowds,
Right?
how they're swayed by personality,
Yeah.
presentation, and the overall entertainment factor.
It's all about the show.
It is all about the show.
I can't wait to hear who they crown champion.
I'm excited to tell you.
Okay.
But
Whoa.
first, we need to take a quick break. When we come back,
Yeah.
we'll reveal the audience's verdict,
Okay.
and we'll dive deeper into the science
Mm-hmm.
behind the Try Guys churro successes and failures.
Can't wait.
Stay tuned.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Welcome back. Are you ready to find out who the audience chose?
I am.
Right.
Let's hear it.
So in this case, the audience decided to embrace the chaos.
Oh, boy.
They crowned Zach the people's loser
The people's lose.
for his brunt churro crumbs.
Oh, Zach.
I bet he was secretly thrilled with that title.
I bet he loved it.
He absolutely would. He even did a little victory dance.
Of course he did.
And for the people's champion,
Okay.
they chose Keith and his fried chicken churros.
Keith?
It seems the audience appreciated his creativity,
Yeah.
his attention to detail,
Mhm.
and his ability to deliver on both flavor and texture.
Well, well-deserved win.
It was.
Yeah.
But now let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
Let's dive deeper into the science behind the Try Guys churro creations.
I'm ready.
Okay, starting with Zach's infamous dino poop.
Oh, yeah.
What went wrong there?
Where do we even begin?
He seemed so confident
Right.
in his use of Crisco,
Yeah.
but then it just vanished.
Well, you see, it all comes down to the science of fats
Okay.
and how they behave at different temperatures.
Okay.
Crisco, which is essentially pure vegetable shortening,
Okay.
has a very high melting point.
So it needs a lot of heat to melt.
It needs a good amount of heat, yes.
Okay, so the Crisco probably wasn't fully melted
Right.
when Zach added the other ingredients.
Probably not.
Would that explain why the dough was so crumbly?
Absolutely. Without that fat properly incorporated,
Mm-hmm.
the dough wouldn't have the right consistency. It would have
Okay.
been too dry,
Right.
too crumbly,
Yeah.
which explains why his churros kept falling apart.
Yeah, even before they hit the fryer.
Exactly.
And then when he did fry them,
Yeah.
they just burnt to a crisp.
Well, that's because the fat wasn't evenly distributed
Okay.
throughout the dough.
Oh.
So the heat would have concentrated in certain areas,
Okay.
leading to uneven cooking and ultimately burning.
So it's not just about using the right type of fat.
Right.
It's also about understanding how to incorporate it properly
Exactly.
into the dough.
It's a crucial step.
It sounds like Zach's lack of baking knowledge
Yeah.
really came back to bite him here.
Baking is a delicate dance between art and science.
Yes.
You need both creativity
Yeah.
and precision to create something truly delicious.
Absolutely.
Especially when you're working without a recipe.
Especially without a recipe.
Yeah.
And speaking of ratios.
Oh, yeah. The ratio.
That's 1-to-1-to-1 ratio.
1-to-1-to-1.
Of sugar, flour, and fat.
Oh, boy.
That was a recipe for disaster from the start.
Way too much sugar.
Way too much sugar.
In a traditional churro recipe,
Yeah.
the ratio of sugar to flour is much lower.
Okay.
You need enough flour
Mm-hmm.
to create structure and to absorb the moisture from the eggs and water, which helps create that light and airy interior that churros are known for.
Right. So he essentially created a sugar cookie dough.
Pretty much, yeah.
Instead of a churro dough.
Yeah.
Which explains the crumbly texture.
Right.
And the burning.
It all makes sense now.
It does. It's amazing how much a simple ratio can impact the final outcome.
It really highlights the importance of understanding the roles that different ingredients play in a recipe. Each ingredient has a specific purpose.
Right.
And altering those ratios can drastically change the texture, the flavor, the overall success of the final product.
It's a good reminder that even when you're experimenting, it's important to have at least a basic understanding of baking principles.
At least a basic understanding, yeah.
But let's move on to a more successful example.
Okay. A success story.
How did Keith manage to achieve that classic churro texture with his fried chicken churros?
Those fried chicken churros.
Even without a recipe.
It seems like Keith has an intuitive understanding of baking principles.
You think so?
Even if he doesn't have years of experience. Remember he talked about making a waffle batter?
I do.
Which, in terms of ingredients and techniques,
Yeah.
isn't that far off from a churro dough?
They both use flour.
Right. They both use flour. Eggs. Sugar. Some kind of fat. And they're both cooked on a hot surface.
Yeah, to create that crispy exterior.
You got that crispy exterior, exactly.
And Keith's emphasis on cooking the chicken thoroughly.
Yes.
Before adding it to the dough.
Before adding it.
That was a smart move.
That was very smart.
Why is that?
Well, by pre-cooking the chicken, he ensured that it wouldn't release excess moisture into the dough, which could have made the churros soggy and prevented them from crisping up properly.
So he was thinking ahead.
He was thinking ahead.
Anticipating potential pitfalls.
Exactly.
Even without a recipe to warn him.
He's got good instincts.
He does.
Yeah. And he also made a smart choice by shaping the churros in circles, mimicking the shape of waffles.
I thought that was just for presentation.
Well, it was a visual nod to the chicken and waffles concept, but it also served a functional purpose. That smaller round shape would have allowed the heat to penetrate more quickly and evenly, preventing the inside from being raw while the outside burnt.
It's amazing how a seemingly simple design choice can have such a big impact on the cooking process.
It's a great example of how form and function can work together. In the culinary world.
And speaking of pushing boundaries.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about Eugene. And his blue seafood churros.
The blue ones.
I'm still baffled by how he managed to pull that off.
I know, me too.
Adding seafood to a dough.
Yeah.
That's going to be deep fried.
Right.
Seems like a recipe for disaster.
Seafood is notoriously delicate. And it's true that adding it to a dough can be tricky.
Yeah.
But Eugene, as always, found a way to make it work.
He did, and the judges loved them.
They did.
They praised the crispy texture, the soft interior, and the unexpected flavor combinations.
Eugene's a culinary magician.
Remember how he cooked the seafood?
Oh, yes.
Before adding it to the dough?
A crucial step.
He was very adamant about that.
He was.
Why was that so important?
By pre-cooking the seafood, he removed excess moisture, which would have interfered with the dough's ability to puff up and crisp properly.
So he essentially treated the seafood like a pre-cooked filling.
Exactly.
Similar to how you'd add cooked fruit to a pie filling.
Exactly like that.
And his choice to puree the seafood was also smart.
Very smart.
Yeah. It created a smooth, even texture that blended seamlessly with the dough.
Yeah.
Preventing any chunks from disrupting the frying process.
It's all about the detail.
And then there's the blue dye.
Ah, yes, the blue dye.
I'm still not sure what possessed him to dye the dough blue.
Only Eugene would do that.
But somehow it worked.
It did.
The blue dye was a stroke of genius.
It was.
It was unexpected, visually striking, and it actually served a practical purpose.
What do you mean? Think about the color of cooked seafood.
Yeah,
Not the most appetizing.
No, not really.
The blue dye helped mask that color, making the churros more visually appealing.
So he used science to trick our eyes.
He did. He cleverly manipulated our perceptions to create a more enjoyable eating experience.
And it worked. The judges were so captivated by the blue.
Right.
They were more open to the unexpected flavor.
Exactly.
It's a reminder that presentation plays a huge role. In how we perceive food.
Absolutely.
But even with the blue dye, I'm still impressed.
Yeah.
That he managed to achieve that classic churro texture.
Right.
With all that seafood in the dough.
It speaks to his ability to balance flavors and textures, to create a cohesive dish, even with unconventional ingredients.
And let's not forget his dipping sauce.
Oh, yeah, the dipping sauce.
He created a mayo-based sauce.
Mayo-based.
With soy sauce, mirin, and wasabi.
Wow.
Like a sushi experience.
Sushi in a churro.
In a churro.
Who would have thought?
Well, Eugene.
Only Eugene.
It's amazing what you can create.
Yeah.
When you throw out the rule book.
Right.
And just embrace the unknown.
To embrace the unknown.
But now, let's move beyond the science of churros.
Okay.
Let's delve into the psychology of competition.
The mental game.
How did the pressure of a live audience and the panel of expert judges impact the Try Guys' performance?
I'm fascinated by that.
Me too.
Yeah, how do they handle the heat?
Let's explore that. Welcome back for the final leg of our churro journey. We've explored the flavors, the science, and now let's delve into the minds of our culinary daredevils, the Try Guys.
It's a whole different ballgame when you're performing live.
It is, right?
That energy is palpable. The stakes are higher. Every decision, every move is amplified.
Remember Zach's descent into the pit of despair as his churros just crumbled before his eyes?
Oh, yes. Classic example of how pressure can really get to you, even for someone as experienced as Zach.
You could see the self-doubt creeping in.
Oh, absolutely. In those high-pressure situations, our brains, they go into overdrive, you know? Right. They amplify our insecurities and doubts. We start overthinking, second-guessing ourselves. And we make mistakes that we wouldn't normally make.
And for Zach, who thrives on being the funny one, right?
Right.
The pressure to not only create delicious churros, but also deliver on the entertainment.
Of course he has to be funny.
It must have been immense.
Absolutely. He was juggling multiple roles there, chef, entertainer, competitor.
And then you have the live audience cheering, commenting.
Oh, yeah.
And ultimately voting for their favorite.
That's a whole other layer of pressure, isn't it?
It is.
It's like having 100 backseat drivers all offering their opinions and critiques in real time.
Right.
It can be exhilarating for some, but for others, it can be incredibly daunting.
And for the Try Guys, their audience has come to expect a certain level of, chaos and hilarity.
They have a reputation to uphold.
And that expectation can be both a blessing and a curse.
It's a double-edged sword for sure.
How so?
On the one hand, it gives them permission to be themselves, to embrace mistakes, to turn those mistakes into comedic gold. But on the other hand, it creates this pressure to constantly deliver on that expectation.
Even when they might be feeling stressed or insecure.
Even when they're not feeling it.
Yeah, it's like they're walking this tightrope.
They are.
Between authenticity and performance.
It's a tough balance.
And each Try Guy seemed to navigate that tightrope in their own unique way.
They did each with their own style.
Zach leaned into the chaos, turning his burnt churros into a running gag.
He owned it.
He did.
Yeah.
And Keith, on the other hand, seemed more focused on proving his competence.
Right.
And actually winning the challenge.
He wanted that win.
He wanted to win.
Yeah.
I think he felt a responsibility to represent the Try Guys in a more skillful light.
Especially with a professional chef on the judging panel.
Especially with Rudy right there.
Yeah. That would add some pressure for sure.
Remember how he said he was cheering for Daddy's favorite?
Oh, yeah.
Like acknowledging the pressure to live up to his dad's expectations.
That's sweet.
It's fascinating how those external pressures, right?
Yeah.
Can influence our behavior.
They really do.
Even in something as seemingly lighthearted as a churro competition.
It's true. We all want to make our loved ones proud.
And then there's Eugene. Who seemed completely unfazed by the pressure.
He's just in his own world.
It's like he exists in his own little bubble of culinary zen.
Eugene is a fascinating case study, I think.
How so?
In how different personalities respond to pressure.
Right.
He seems to operate on a different wavelength, unfazed by expectations, deadlines, any of it.
He's a culinary maverick.
He is.
Marching to the beat of his own drum.
And it works for him.
It does.
He consistently delivers creative and delicious dishes.
Even when they're blue.
Even when they're blue.
And filled with seafood.
It's remarkable.
It's a reminder that sometimes the best way to handle pressure is to just ignore it.
To just let it go.
To trust your instincts.
Trust your gut.
And let your creativity flow.
Exactly.
And that's a valuable lesson for all of us.
It is a valuable lesson.
Whether we're trying to create the perfect churro, or just navigate the complexities of everyday life.
It applies to everything.
So there you have it. A deep dive into the Try Guys Churro Challenge. A whirlwind of flavor science and psychology.
What a ride.
We hope you enjoyed it.
I know I did.
We hope this deep dive has inspired you to embark on your own culinary adventure to push your boundaries.
Try something new.
Experiment with flavors.
Get creative.
See what unexpected creations you can cook up.
And most importantly, have fun.
Absolutely. Until next time.
Happy cooking, everyone.